Hello friends. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a very specific color grading technique inside of DaVinci Resolve that has drastically improved the quality of my color grades. This technique is going to be looking at power windows and how to use them to shape light and really add emphasis or take away emphasis from different parts of your image. I think if you've been learning color grading for some time, this is somewhat of an intermediate technique. So if you've learned to grade and balance your image, I think this will really help you take your image kind of that last 10 or 15%. And it's not a very advanced technique either. We're not using a really taxing plugin or keying anything. This is in general a pretty broad adjustment that we're making to our image, but I see time and time again that I'm pulling for this to really get my image to sit where I'm wanting it. So hope that it helps you, and let's dive in. Okay, so now we are in DaVinci Resolve. I have a few different shots from this video down here. This one, exterior from Oregon, and then an interview. As we hop on over just to our preferences, you guys can see color management wise, DaVinci YRGB, Rec 709A because I'm on a Mac. I think everything else is standard. So let's go ahead and hop over to the color page. If we go back to our primaries here, we're just going to set up a basic node tree. So for this, I'm just going to walk you guys through how I would actually grade this. So this is F-Log2, so I'm going to use my F-Log2 LUT A right away. Looks great. We're just going to name this LUT. And then from here, typically node 1, I would do something like noise reduction if it needed it. This clip is not going to need it, so we're just going to set this node aside. And so right here is kind of where we're going to make most of our adjustments, including using power windows. And so let's go ahead and just call this primary. And the initial thing that I would love to do is just bring our highlights down. So retain as much information before it hits our LUT as possible. I think it looks great. And then I would just add a little bit more contrast by bringing my gamma up and then the lift down because I want this to be pretty punchy. And so you guys will see like right away, that looks awesome. But we're gonna move on to kind of shaping the light further. And so if we go here, we're gonna add a parallel node. And we do this here because we want all of our exposure adjustments happening at the same time before it hits the LUT. You can do it after, but I think just the least destructive way to do it is kind of all here in parallel nodes. So we're just going to call this Vin for vignette. And if we go over to our windows, we're just going to click on the circle. And I like to just drag this out and make it nice and soft. And I think for here, what I'm really wanting to do is just bring emphasis to what's already here. And I want the subject's eye to be drawn towards the subject here in the center. And so the main things that I'm seeing is the grass maybe comes off a little bright. And I think overall, because we were just shooting this in natural light, we could focus the light in a little bit more. So maybe we'll make this a little bit tall. And the key here, I think just being subtle is key. And then if we come down here, we're actually going to flip the orientation so that it's affecting the outside of our image. And so if we now go to our primaries here, before we have this node selected, I like to just come to the gain and bring the gain down. So you guys can see, I mean, you could do something really dramatic, but I just like to bring things down maybe to like 0.9. It really depends. I try to keep it subtle. And so maybe right here, we'll go 0.93. I'll maybe bring it down. And so if we go before and after, you guys can see right away, it's really just drawing the attention a little bit more towards the center. And so then the last thing I'm seeing is just this patch of grass seems a little bright. And because this was done on a tripod, we don't need to have any tracking. So if we actually just come back to this node here, we're actually just going to add another power window. So if we go to circle, you guys will see that it added this other one. So we can actually just stretch this out along the bottom, feather it out. And I think that right there looks really great. So here was before any power windows, and then after, before, and then after. It's really subtle, guys, and we're not trying to do anything too dramatic here, but I do think it really helps just bring this image to life, keeps our focus here on the center. I mainly do subtractive adjustments. You could, if you wanted to bring more emphasis to the center, you could add another parallel node, make it really soft, and then you could bring like the gain up. I don't know why, but I think to my eye, that often looks unnatural. So I typically only do subtractive adjustments. And if I'm wanting to bring emphasis back, maybe to the center, maybe make her a little bit brighter, I'll actually just do that in my primary adjustment. And so I might bring the gain up slightly, gamma down, just to make her a little bit brighter. And then I might just go ahead and make this a little bit more dramatic. So there is before and then after, before and then after. So moving on to this shot here, we're in a similar world. This is just pasting the LUT over. And so from here, we're just gonna make some similar primaries adjustments. So maybe let's bring our highlights down. This shot probably doesn't need it as much. And I think right there looks pretty good. We might do the same kind of contrast adjustment. Bring our gamma up and our lift down slightly. So before and then after. I think that looks really good. And so here's an example where now I might choose to do the power window differently. So if you guys see, we do have light. It's kind of moving diagonally here. So if we go to the same kind of circle power window, we're actually just going to feather it out, rotate it. And I just like to follow what the image already naturally looks like. So we will bring this out here. Make sure it's feathered out as much as can go, and then we need to flip the orientation again. So then as we pull our gain down, I feel like I want to make this one a little bit more contrasty. And so maybe I'll bring this down to like 0.84, and you guys will just see how much emphasis that places here on the center of our image. And so if we go before and then after, before and then after, this is motivated by what the scene already looks like, what the lighting's already naturally going on, but definitely just helps draw our interest kind of away from the metal detector down here, just towards her foot and the shovel right here. And I think this looks really great. The last shot we're gonna look at from this video is a little bit more of this kind of medium close up. So if we paste the LUT on, again, we're just gonna start with those similar adjustments. Go ahead and bring that down, gamma up, lift down slightly. Maybe we'll bring our gain back up. I want to keep the level in there. And so I think that looks really great. And then from here, if we go on to a power window, for here, I might just make this soft and kind of keep it here in the center. I don't want to go full shape on it, but I just want to draw the interest here. So we'll flip the orientation and then again, just come to our gain and bring that down slightly. Maybe I'll make it a little bit wider. But then before, and then after, before, and then after. Moving on to this shot here, I just kind of wanted to show you guys some different scenarios. So we're gonna start with just pasting our node tree again. We've got my LUT, and this is closer to sunset. Sun was a lot dimmer, so we might just in our primary bring up our gamma a little bit to bring some life into the image and bring our lift down. Just keep our contrast in a decent spot. So before and then after, just lifting that up slightly, because this is kind of the main subject here and I want to bring emphasis to that, and I don't want to make everything too dark. And the sun was quite warm here, so everything's looking a little bit red. So we're gonna come to our offset and just push this ever so slightly towards like blue-green. I think that looks really good. So before and then after, before and then after. I think this looks really great. And then when it comes to the vignette, guys, similar process. We're just gonna go to the circle. You guys can play around with the different ones, but I just find the circle to be the most versatile and what I'm grabbing for the most. So let's kind of place this to start, just over our subjects right here, flip the orientation, and then we're just gonna bring the gain down. I think that looks pretty good. So before and then after, before and then after. I think one thing that's important to note, sometimes people will do these vignettes with the lift. The lift is gonna affect more of the shadows. And I feel like when you do it with the lift, it just tends to look maybe more artificial. Like this gets really dark really quick and it looks a little bit more cheesy. And so definitely stick to the gain. You can do the lift if it's needing it, but often guys just bring the gain down slightly to adjust the emphasis. I feel like looks really good. This final shot here is an interview, and this is another common scenario that I'm using power windows in. If we paste our node tree, we have the wrong LUT on because this is Rec 709, so we're just gonna change this to my standard LUT A right away. I feel like it looks really good. Might be a little bit warm because we were inside, didn't have my white balance perfect, so we're just gonna pull my offset here ever so slightly towards blue. I think that looks really good. That's just our white balance correction. And then from here, we might just pull our highlights down a little bit and our lift up so it's not as contrasty. So before and then after, this is just a LUT, basic white balance correction. And then here, when we move on to our vignette, again, we can show you guys a few different things that I might do. And so let's go ahead and soften this out and flip the orientation. So we're just gonna bring a little bit more emphasis to her in the center. I might go back to our primary and bring up our gain, bring our gamma down, just to add a little bit more contrast, and probably take it again a little more towards blue. So you guys will see this is doing quite a bit here. That is before and then after, before and then after. And I might want to keep some of the contrast back here. I think that looked quite good. So I'm gonna show you guys another technique. If you guys add another power window, this is within the same node, you can actually come over here to this kind of cancel out feature. So this will actually not affect anything in here with any adjustments. So again, we're gonna soften this out, and I might do something like this where, again, this is just kind of creating a custom shape, but it's darkening a little bit of the edge, but we're still keeping the contrast on the back of her hair, but then pulling down some of this that is just blank to kind of bring emphasis to her face here. So that is before and then after, before and then after. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video helped you in some way, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.